Good morning. For those of you who are just clicking on the video and didn't see part one of this trip, I am on a roughly 62 kilometer pack rafting trip in the Scottish Highlands. So the goal of this trip was to essentially pack raft and hike around 3 to 5 of the lochs in this region of Scotland. Yesterday in part one I set off at the end of Lake Marie and paddled about, I think it ended up being around 11 or 12 miles to the end of the loch. Then got off and started the hike. About 4 miles later, I ended up at this spot in a pretty dense woodland, midge and tick infested. So I found a spot. Last night was pretty good. As you can hear, it has been pouring probably the last 2-3 hours, and it's meant to continue pouring until around noon. So at some point, when I get the motivation to actually get out of the tent, I will pack up and begin the long hike to the next loch. So as you can see, we have about 100% chance of rain still until about noon. A decent amount of precipitation as well. But then, by around 2, it says it should stop, and the rest of the day looks pretty nice. So just to give you an idea of the space inside this tent, and which is one of the reasons I brought it. Well, the main reason is because I needed the trekking poles for this trip, but it's definitely got a nice amount of size to spread out. Pardon the mess. Currently organizing everything. 2 big vestibules, so the pack raft and everything's on that side. This was my toilet side in the middle of the night. I wasn't going out to pee. I'm just trying to figure out now what I'm going to do. I'm thinking I may actually take these trousers off and go ahead and put my waterproof trousers on. And that's primarily because if it is going to be heavy rain like this for the next 4 hours, I know these will probably wet through eventually. So I think I may just take these trousers off and wear these instead and actually keep these dry in my pack and then get everything packed up. I unfortunately drank the water that I had set aside for a coffee this morning. I drank it last night. I was just too thirsty. There is a river not far at all from the tent. However, the thought of having to go out in this weather to get water, come back, and yeah, I'm gonna forgo it for now and just make a coffee later if I need it. I'm just gonna go ahead and have some breakfast. I just have a breakfast bar, pack everything up, and then try to get out of here. Look at this guy. That's gonna be gross to clean off the tent. I opened the door for literally 2 seconds, and there are probably 10 to 15 midges in the tent. Yeah, so when I open that door, it's to leave. I'll just get my coffee later. On this trip, not only is everything in dry bags, but the bag itself is actually nearly waterproof, and I have a bin bag. So just extra precautions when I'm going to be on the water for so long like I was yesterday. Alright, I've got the bag packed. Just gonna put my shoes on, step out, and get the tent down. I have the net on because as soon as I open that door, I know I'm gonna get flooded with the little things, so let's do this. Oh, I don't know if you guys can tell, they're just swarming around me. But I've got long johns on, socks over the top of those, shirt tucked in, so really closed up top, so really the only thing on my body that's exposed is my hands, and I covered my hands in DEET, and for the most part it's working. There's actually zero condensation on the inside of the fly. So so I'm just going to try to shake as much of it off as I can. Stayed pretty taut considering all the rain we had. Can you guys see this? I think I may not come to Scotland in the summers. It's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. But this is actually, when I set off on this trip yesterday, when I got out of the car, this is what happened. And I had to dig my midge net out and all that. And I really considered actually turning around and driving back to the lakes and doing a multi-day trip there, because the thought of this was unbearable. In my current state, like I said, only thing exposed is my hands, and they're covered in DEET, and it's actually working, so I can deal with it. But getting in and out of the tent is almost impossible, which kind of stinks. I'm giving the tent a tiny bit more time to dry off. So I'm just going down to the little stream here to get some water filled up before we start hiking. So as you can see, not very far from the path at all, which is good. Let's get some water. Gotta refill this bottle. I also have a 2-liter bladder in case something happens to this one. All right, all good. Well, it was wishful thinking letting the tent dry. It started raining again, so I had to put the good camera back in my bag, in its dry bag. I'm just going to use this for now. Go ahead and get all the packraft stuff out. It doesn't feel lighter. All right, leave no trace as always. That's where we were last night. That was our view. Time to start hiking. I'm a little over a quarter mile from where I camped. Should have kept walking. Nice big open grassy spots with tree cover. The only issue though is there's no wind here, so I'm assuming there was none the other day too, just because it's really kind of covered. Ooh, this would have been a nice spot too. Regrets. So I'm on the main trail, making my way out of the forest. Got about a 5-mile hike to the Loch. Be doing a little bit of elevation too. And then hopefully, if the winds are calm enough, I can get this heavy pack off and get back on the packraft. It's gonna be a long day. Really pretty forest.
Looks like we made it through the forest. Now it's going to be all open to the loch. So pretty. There's the forest behind me. It's very interesting. They've done a good job at keeping grazing animals off this land. There's fences pretty much surrounding the whole area. And so what that's done is allowed a lot of this shrub to grow in. The only issue, of course, is it does make it more difficult to find a spot to pitch the tent like I would normally in Snowdonia or the Lake District. It's hard to believe that it's supposed to be sunny by 2 o'clock. Oh man, that's gonna be nice if it actually is. So to give you an idea of where we are now, these all along here, we were just on the other side of that yesterday, paddling the length of Loch Marie, which goes all the way from out there past all of these peaks. We're now on the other side of these peaks, and we're going to be going to a few lochs over here and hopefully getting to paddle them. But feeling this wind, I don't know, because I'll be going against the wind, so we'll see. Hopefully I can, because if not, it's going to be just a longer hike. We'll see. That's where we've come from this morning, that forest off in the distance. I was about a mile deep into that. It's raining, but this is so much better than the midges. So much better. For those wondering if my feet are dry, the answer is no. They stopped being dry yesterday when I was hiking in the marsh along the river, unfortunately, but I kind of knew this would happen. I have multiple pairs of socks and a really comfy pair that I put on at night to sleep in. I was going to wear trail runners for this, but it's only 3 to 4 days, and actually with the time that I'm making, I'm thinking it'll be 3 full days, so I don't really need them, even though they would have been more comfortable. Some of these parts of this trek, like the one today, there's going to be no path and I have no idea what to expect. And like yesterday when I was going through the marsh, if I was wearing trail runners, I may have actually even lost my shoe. So I just preferred having the extra support, even though it's not as comfortable when the boots finally do get wet. But the temps are relatively warm, so it's not too bad. My feet are plenty warm. Well, we have our first glimpse of the loch. So not this one right here, I'm not sure what that one's called, but Loch Fion is the one just behind it, just beneath that range. That's where we're headed, and if the winds are not too bad, because they're kind of going in the wrong direction, I'll have to paddle against the wind, but if the water looks okay, I'm going to get on that loch and then paddle to the next one. Also, for anyone who wonders why I wear this hat all the time, there's a few reasons. One, I attach the GoPro to it often, but one of the big reasons is when it's raining, the hood of my coat just hooks on the top of it, keeps it off my face, which is a lot nicer than it flapping around in my face. And it gives me a nice little awning to keep the rain out of my eyes. Ooh, that is a beast. There's no footpaths from this direction that I know of that go up there unless you go up and around. That would be a fun one to climb. Very cool. All right, I'm making my way to the loch. I'm actually getting a lot closer now. Here's another smaller loch. Not sure the name of it, but just over there is the one I'm heading to. Oh man, this is it's still pretty early. I think it's only just past 10. I'm making good time hiking, but I still have quite a while until apparently the sun comes out. I'll believe it when I see it, but the rains are supposed to stop at around 2, so I still have a long time until that, but ooh, be nice to see the sun. Such cool waterfalls. Sometimes you just gotta stop and watch. It's just coming down. Yeah, I have a feeling, I'm just looking at the wind over that loch. It's actually not creating waves or anything, but I just can't imagine in my little inflatable fighting this kind of wind. Yeah, this isn't looking good for paddling. This might mean I'm gonna be hiking quite a bit further. I'm almost to the loch, can't even see it yet. It's still behind this. I'm kind of snaking my way around to it. I've got 2 to 3 more hours of this weather. Actually, the rains are supposed to pick up too. Oh man, this is gonna be a long day. If the weather is like this by the time I get to the loch, I think if I can't paddle, I may just go to one of my backup plans. I just might start hiking up one of the passes that actually makes its way to the next loch. Not ideal because there's no trail for that hike, but I need to keep moving, and if I can't get on the water, then I might as well get it done, because I'll be miserable either way. And then hopefully by the time the weather calms down, I'll be at the next loch, and then I can get on the water with the sun, hopefully. So we're making our way around now, and then up and over and down that. We came from way out there now. Well, didn't actually anticipate this, but my feet are already soaked, so shouldn't be a problem. And I have the trekking pole. You know, these always look easier than they are. And the only concern is, you know, in fast flowing water like here, you know, and a little bit over there, the concern is not getting my feet wet. The concern is slipping and falling in the water. That would be bad. I don't want to do that. All right. actually just decided it's probably a good idea to stop, finish this water, and get some more. Even for that second to stop and get water, the midges found me. So I'm not sure you can tell, but we've been basically bypassing the lock that I was planning on paddling. There's a little tiny island out there in the big lock. That's kind of towards the start of it. And then it goes along this way to here, and then there's a connecting lock. So we're just kind of walking almost to the end of it. And then I'm gonna decide what to do, whether or not we're going up kind of into the pass a little bit to the next lock, or into an adjacent lock here and then up. I'm hoping the weather lightens up a bit by the time I make it over there, just so I can have some visibility, because this section coming up is off trail completely. So there's actually no trail that does this. So yeah, this is probably going to be the toughest part coming up, but if I can get over it by the time the weather clears, I could potentially paddle the other big lock that I was planning on doing, and then try to camp at the end of that. And then that'll set me up nicely for actually doing this in 3 days. So then tomorrow I'll have a hike and a paddle out, but it'll be nothing compared to what I've been doing the past 2 days. So that's the plan. Little dude, almost stepped on you. Come on, keep going, come on. Okay, I'll walk around. Almost stepped on him. Slowly making my way there. So again, we were on the other side of this yesterday. The entire length of this is Loch Murray on the other side. It's a big paddle. I definitely would not have made it as far on the first day if it wasn't for that wind to my back. That really pushed me along pretty quickly, which is awesome. Just taking a look back at where we came from. All the way out there. Doing really good so far. The weather, I don't want to say it looks like it's clearing up, but at least it's not raining at the second. It's just windy. So I've got my eye on the pass. It's off in the distance there. Pretty much skipped all of Loch Fion, which is this one right here. So I'm gonna make my way to the other big one now, but this is where it gets a little bit trickier, because once I get to that gap, that's where I'm gonna kind of make my own path. And that actually, there's a stream that runs along that pass that goes to the next lock, Loch Fada, which is my goal. So I'm gonna try to make it there, and if I can, paddle that today and camp at the end of it. It's a shame I didn't get to paddle that, but I can see the wind on the lock. It's not too bad, but it has died down since earlier when I was actually planning on going and doing it. Oh well, that's why you have backup plans. So I've pretty much walked alongside Loch, and now I'm gonna make my way to hopefully the next loch, which I can paddle. It's a bit daunting when you look at it from down here. All right, we've reached the end of the second loch. So we would have started down there, but we've reached the end of it now. So we bypassed that with the path. Now, here's the tricky part. We have to, and this, I have to do this either way. So we have to go up and then either through this pass or through the next pass that you can't see. Both of which will level out and take me to the next loch, which is the original plan. Whether or not I can actually do that, I don't know. I've only looked at the topo maps and satellite imagery. It looks like I might be able to, but I honestly won't know until I get up there and see what the terrain actually looks like. This path is tough. It's making me nervous if this is what the actual path looks like. I can't imagine what the one I've mapped out is gonna be like. You can finally see the start of the loch I wanted to paddle. Just past that island out there. Then I would have went down. But instead, we worked our way along. It would have been nice to have the break and got to paddle instead of carry this big old bag. But now we're getting to the tricky part. So there's a path that goes over this pass to Loch Marie, but I'm going to attempt to go through this pass, which is about a mile or two, to a different loch. All right, so that's where I need to go. I'm planning on following the path as long as I can, and it should bring me up to around here somewhere, and then I'm going to try to skirt along that cliff and then up into there. Once I get into there though, it's flat, so there won't be any more elevation gain. It'll actually be a slight elevation decrease, I believe, and that'll get me to the loch. Wow. So beautiful. The rains look like they've stopped. I'll probably try to get out the good camera once I make this hike up and get to that little valley up there. I can't really stop either because there's no wind now, as you can probably hear. And that means the midges are out. Stop for even a second and they just swarm me. Looking up there though, I can see a tiny little line, and I believe that may actually be a path. There is a kind of a half path marked on the map. It doesn't go all the way through the valley, but it gets you to it, which is good. And then I can follow the stream bed if I need to get to the loch. didn't want to have to do this because it's hot. I gotta put the net on. Ah! It's so irritating. It's hard to even enjoy being at camp because you can't even open the door to your tent without 50 of those things getting in. Ugh, it's so brutal. I promised myself I wouldn't skip lunch today. Didn't want to do it while it was raining, but the wind would have at least kept these things off me. Hopefully when we get up there, I can get a breeze or something, then I can stop and at least get something to snack on, because I need the calories. Look at that view. Absolutely incredible. I stopped, I got out the good camera. I just couldn't pass up actually capturing this with it. So I've inspected the route, and there is a path that actually leads to that pass. I don't think there's a path once you get to it, but that's all I need is to get there, because as you can see, it's a pretty steep drop. All right, let's get there. You can clearly see it now. Oh my gosh. I'm so thankful there's a path to get into that valley. Definitely looks way more daunting when you're down there. Pretty incredible view. My gosh, that's amazing. I wish there was a space big enough to camp up here. Gorgeous. The water dripping from the rock. Sorry for that annoying whistling sound, by the way, if you guys can hear it. My paddle, the air is blowing right over the top of the hole, and it's making constant whistling sound. It's driving me crazy. I just don't have anything to shove in there. All right, I don't know if you guys can see, but off in the distance there is where we started today, and we've made it up to that pass. So I'm basically gonna follow along these cliffs, and actually this stream leads directly to the next loch. Gosh, this is absolutely amazing. If that doesn't make you feel small, I don't know what will. Oh wow, there it is, the tip of it, straight off in the distance. That's the next loch, Loch Fada, I believe it's called. Oh, that's awesome. All right, well, it's a long ways, but you know what? One step closer. And this was the part I was worried about. I've made it up here. There is no trail any longer, but I'm just gonna make my way down this valley, get to the loch. Once we get there, if the wind's in our favor, get on the packraft and try to get this loch done by today. And then I can camp on the other end of it. And from there, it's a few miles hike and another couple miles paddle, and that'll be the trip. So instead of 4 days, 3 days, not too bad. I don't want to get too excited just yet, but that stream off in the distance looks wide enough to paddle. I don't want to make the same mistake I made yesterday and pass up an opportunity to paddle instead of hike through, well, this kind of stuff. So maybe too early to tell. I need to go see how deep it is, and then I could paddle to the loch. That would definitely save some time, but it would also be a lot of fun. Slowly but surely making my way there. I'm about to approach the river, so I'll be able to see what it looks like. But just want to show you this. You know, something as small as this, you wouldn't think it's very deep, but when you come up to it, it actually is at least 2-3 feet deep. I don't want to fall into that. And it's like that nearly the entire way. That bit of grass covering it, but it goes down quite a ways. I almost stepped in it. Any case, things to watch out for. Oh, I'm still in love with this cliff. It's gorgeous. This river, although wide enough, it's very shallow, so unfortunately I can't run it. So I'm just gonna follow it until we reach the loch. Yep, again. Oh my gosh, that was a slog. But we made it. It's Loch Fada. I hope that's how you pronounce it. So we're gonna get down there, blow up the packraft, get on the water. That was tough. That's where we came from. It was a lot farther than it looked. So look at that. Beautiful and calm. Let's get to the other side. Damn midges are already coming back. Oh, I'm burning up. Try to dry my shirt off a little bit. It's already dried quite a bit since it stopped raining, but it's still pretty moist. I'm gonna go ahead and get some beef jerky as well from my bag. Just keep that in the boat so I can snack on that since I didn't eat lunch.